Day 4 of self-documentation. It is another cloudy, rainy day, so we'll be inside for most of it. And I think for today, instead of listing off all the productive things I've done, like hanging up my paintings, I think I will instead talk about what has led me to a year of self-isolation. And that stemmed from me making the connection that I am more than just introverted, more than just highly sensitive, more than just a socially anxious person, which are all labels that I would give to myself during the many years of trying to understand how my brain worked. I'm not those things, because those are inaccurate labels. I am most likely autistic, which is not a timely realization because it seems like everyone else at this time is also coming to these epiphanies, which makes it easier for people that don't have similar concerns or struggles in life. Makes it easier for them to minimize these revelations, which I have dealt with when I was being more social here. And yeah, it's quite invalidating to do that when someone is being vulnerable in this way. Yeah, because in my case, it's not a trendy thing or something to get attention to accept this label. It just helped everything make sense for me in terms of my life struggles and social confusion. I was in a relationship / married for 10 years. Last year we separated, but even that relationship, it lasted so long out of fear because I knew that I would be very vulnerable going out back into the dating world without having made sense of how my sociability differs from other people. The thing that really made that settle in for me, my autism, was when I moved here, well, my undiagnosed autism. I would have loved to have gotten diagnosed, actually, but in this country, there's no support for neurodivergent adults. I hardly found anything for children to get supported for it, so there's no option for me to even see someone to be diagnosed here. But also I question whether I need to pay thousands of dollars to get this diagnosis when I have been learning about autism for the past year, and the more I learn about it and the more I listen to other people talk about their late diagnoses, the more everything makes sense. Yeah, and that's something that I have just taken a year to sit with in terms of realizing how much I've been masking my whole life. I knew I was a shapeshifter. I called myself a shapeshifter all the time. I knew I had I knew I had emotional processing delays. There's so many autistic symptoms that I would be able to verbalize, but did not think to look at the whole package and see what that could be called. Also, there was complete lack of autism awareness growing up. I'm a 90s baby. There was only one autistic kid at my high school that I was aware of, and I only knew of this person because they were very high needs and they needed to have a caretaker with them in classes, and so it was impossible to miss. So I knew I wasn't like that, and I figured, well, I must just be an introvert with social anxiety that's hypersensitive to sound and smells and violence. No, and those aren't my only traits, but I don't need to spew out my whole mental profile on video to myself. um, yeah, but after moving to this new country and making a concentrated effort to socialize, I was such a social butterfly the first 2 years. Meetups upon meetups upon meetups. I went out to bars and clubs and cultural festivals, and I met a ton of people, but it just did not end up filling the gap that I needed it to, because there was always a performance still, and my brain was always worried about whether I was being normal, saying something right, doing anything right. Like it was, and there are certain cases where I'm socializing with the purest intents, but people have projections that they put upon me, and then I'm having to work out those projections in real time and figure out what I may have done to cause people to feel these things. And there's just so much mental back and forth that people don't know about. And then if you don't talk because you're processing things, or you're just trying to get your bearings together, then that's a whole issue too. Yeah, so I've taken this year to return to myself and figure out what truly fuels me, because when I think of it, I don't really need that many social connections. I really would just like 2 or 3 great friends. And I have met great people here, but my favorite people that I've met in this country, they always end up leaving for one reason or another. I mean, it's life. People can't halt their life for me. So that's fine. But after having some friendship betrayals last year, in conjunction with really understanding that I'm most likely autistic and have been undiagnosed my whole life, and cycling through past events and how that lack of knowledge has impacted how I perceived them and how people have perceived me, it just led to me naturally feeling that it's best that I don't expose myself to so many different people's energies for a while, until I feel more settled with my life path and who I am truly. But I'm not shape shifting, being a people pleaser, managing other people's emotions. What is it like to manage my own emotions? How do I fuel me? And these paintings have been a part of that, as well as nurturing life in general. I'm a creator, in terms of me growing things and fermenting things, and just my passion for making art. Well, just making stuff. It doesn't have to be art. I mean, I had an Etsy store that turned into a whole business because I knew how to make hair and body products growing up, and then I taught myself how to stabilize them for commercial production. And yeah, I don't know of any social events outside of dancing that gives me this sort of excitement and passion. So anyway, that is a brief breakdown as to how I've gotten peace with not socializing so much after a lifetime of just wanting to have such a huge social circle, which I yearned for growing up, because I wasn't allowed to have friends until I left my parents' house, which is another story for another day. But this has just been an interesting journey moving here. I've learned so much about myself in ways that I did not expect. And now I am about to move somewhere else next year, and I cannot wait to see what I learn when I get to that next destination. So I'm gonna stop rambling for now, because we're almost at 10 minutes, and I will make great use of the rest of my day. So bye for now. Day 4 complete.